Okay, here's a video that's going to tell you how to get Google Display Network campaigns to work for your business. If you don't know anything about Google Display Network too much yet, what I can tell you is it's just as profitable as Facebook ads, if not more profitable, and pretty much getting to be more profitable than Facebook ads, given that Facebook doesn't have the targeting options that it used to, and the data that it used to from Apple and some other places that since 2020, the performance of Facebook has fell off, which is published all over the internet from people that'll tell you that we're using Facebook ads, where it hit its peak in 2018 or 2019 even. So anyway, with that said, Google Display Network, though, generally speaking, if you want it to work better, takes more time and understanding to understand physically how it needs to be set up and how it works. There's a lot of different targeting options with Google Display Network, and if you don't know how to, which options to use, it'll be tough to make money with the ads. There's a lot to go wrong. It's easy to have your money just end up, gone in 2 seconds with a campaign that's set up too broad. And so everything is about getting what you have targeted down to a narrow enough set of people that your buyers are there in a high enough proportion that you basically have to make money. And I'm going to talk about how to do that on today's video. And specifically with all the targeting options that you have, there's a main framework that you can use, that I use, that's going to take you from where you're at now, starting out with no results or possibly some results, and it'll take you the rest of the way. But you could be starting out from nothing and to set up a campaign for yourself that's going to work. Anyway, with all that said, I'll get right into the content. I talked about how when you want to get Google Display Network campaigns to work, and this was done on the very last video that I released, you generally need either a ton of traffic or know how to target the right person and at the right place or time. And so what I mean by that is, and if you again want more detail on this, watch my last video, but basically you can have, generally if you have at least 1,000, but more so 10,000 people coming to your website a month, you can use the similar to audience targeting option, which is done through setting up a remarketing audience on Google Ads or through Google Analytics and then importing your remarketing audience to Google Ads. Eventually, Google will have a audience that pops up in your audience targeting menu that says similar to, and then the name of that remarketing audience, which gets you essentially an audience that's similar to the people coming to your website. You can do the same thing if you set up a conversion tag and then an audience that's just supposed to be the people that have purchased or contacted you already, and have a audience that shows up that says similar to customers or purchasers or whatever you name that audience that's supposed to represent your purchasers or leads, but respectively, most people don't have enough purchases or customers to do similar audience targeting around that. The similar to audience targeting is similar to Facebook's lookalikes targeting. It works essentially the same way. The algorithm looks at a set of people that you have coming to your website or are your customers, looks at all the traits of those people, and then finds you people like them that have similar traits and are doing similar things to find you more customers. With Google Ads, the easy thing would be to try to get Google's algorithm to find you customers like that, people that have similar traits as to people who purchased from you in the past or just are coming to your website, which means they've analyzed certain traits that people that come to your website and are looking to buy a product or service like yours have, to find where to place your ads on the Google Display Network, and then therefore you can get sales from it. But most people don't have 10,000 visits a month coming to your website to have Google to have enough data to do this effectively. Respectively, and with that, no matter what or how many visits to the site do you have, Google's still going to have to do some trial and error, and it may not be able to find your results fast enough. And so then you're stuck with having to set up manual targeting options that can get you to the core list of people that you want to target that has a high level of saturation of would-be or could-be buyers, so that you're not marketing your ads to or advertising to people who have no propensity to buy your product or service. The more people that you market to that have no chance or no hope to buy from you, the more that your advertising is going to cost to get to the people that could buy from you, and then increases the likelihood that your campaigns won't be profitable after expenses. And it's real easy to spend more than you can afford to spend to get a customer. So I can tell you by default, you got to narrow your targeting of your ads down as much as you can. And the easiest way to do this for yourself is to think about the customer you want to buy and go through Google's targeting options and find, through their default targeting options, something that represents somebody who is your perfect customer, that has the needs that or could want what you have to sell already. Effectively, if you sell auto performance parts, it's people that are interested in, basically, if you can, there's many ways to do this. People that are interested in making their cars faster by doing upgrades. And so effectively, a better way to do that would be to target people through what is called a custom intent audience of other people who have been to your competitors' websites, indicating to Google that basically these are the people I want to target. It's people who are already looking at products from other people that sell other parts like mine or similar to mine, and then you could target them, and that would put you in front of people who are your perfect best prospects that are likely to turn into a customer for you. However, it's generally not enough because respectively, they're dealing with your competitor, they're dealing with them for a reason, or they're looking at ways to make their vehicle faster. We don't still know that ultimately these people are doing research or looking around, they're tire kickers. They may just not be, they may be wanting to buy a product of a certain type, but not yours. We can narrow down further and give ourselves way more of a chance to make money and have a tighter audience of people to target that has an even higher percentage of buyers within it, and weed out more of the people that are never going to buy if you could find, in addition to having the right person, have the right person being able to be targeted at the right place and or the right time. But you generally need one of these two, place or time, in addition to marketing to the right person, to make the campaigns, just as the first thing you're doing here, have the capability or propensity to work. So respectively, that could mean the right time that you market to somebody who's interested already and is interested in your getting upgrades done to their car to make their car faster, would be somebody who just bought a sports car that is normally of a make of car that people heavily modify. That would be an example of what you could come up with as an owner of your business. You understand your customers at this level already. Of course, if you've been in business for a while, that instead of just targeting people who are looking into buying parts that are, would make them, 10, 20, 30 times more likely to buy because it's the right time. It's both the right person that is willing to buy what you have to sell and could benefit from it and would see benefit from it, but also the right time in which they're, hot to trot, they're in market for what you have, and it's way more likely that they're going to buy something soon. It could be the right place. They could be, respectively, if somehow you knew that they were at a place that signifies that they're going to be buying sooner, which it could be a website, for instance, that's about how to buy the right turbocharger, which is a kind of a type of an auto part that you put on your car to make your car faster. So it could be somebody who is looking at our competitors' websites that sell turbochargers, and if that person's on an article actively reading something about how to buy the right turbocharger to not get ripped off. So that person, now you've got two different levels in which you're narrowing down your prospects on. And you could find every web page about, if you sell the turbocharger specifically, all the pages about how to buy the right turbocharger, and have that as your one targeting criteria to get the time / place criteria knocked out. And then also anybody who's looked at any of your competitors' websites that also sell turbochargers within the last 30 days, which you can do through custom intent audiences. So you know they've been looking at a turbocharger, you know they're effectively indicating that they're ready to buy a turbocharger, and they're just at the final stages of making sure they need to know which of the ones they were looking at to choose. You've got an audience of people there that are so likely to buy and something like you sell or someone similar to what you sell, that you effectively can't go wrong. Now you're in position to make money. If you sold a service, for instance, let's say you are a installer of granite countertops, which that's technically, you can call it a product. It's product/service. With that said, you could think of, okay, the right person would be the right person to market to is somebody doing research about granite countertops online through a custom intent audience. You could target all the people looking at different, granite countertop ideas, and perhaps been also included in that, which would be even better, people who've been to our competitors' websites indicating that they're already in market for them, respectively. But you could also think, what is the time or place that would indicate to somebody that they're not just interested and might be buying a granite countertop, what the main time out of all the customers we have that people are buying. And you find out that, the people out of all your customers you have, the people that buy the quickest and the most frequent is when somebody just bought a house. So you could add a secondary targeting option to your Google Display Network ads, which you can do actually through Google Display Network ads. And this is a real example of where we've done this before and used this, did this kind of setup where somebody was about to move into a new house. They were in the process of moving. So if they were in the process of moving, we don't know why they're moving. Maybe they're moving to a rental house, but if they're looking at granite countertops and now they're getting ready to move, now we know that person's probably going to be buying within the next 90 days. So we've really, really narrowed down our choices at that point in time. Sometimes you can actually make it what you're doing work if a person's just interested in the products or services that you have alone. But generally you want to be targeting people that's right for the product and it's the right time or place for them to be buying it, because you'll have a much, much higher likelihood of making your campaign profitable, basically. And so respectively, the right person can be, like I said, somebody who's researched recently. It could be somebody who's been to your competitor websites. The right place or time could be somebody who maybe they're at a convention center, or they're near a college, or it's a certain, they're going to be moving soon. Like I said, there's other ways to target people. You could have it could be somebody who, respectively, and specifically on the person side, you have the right person. If you've spent $50,000 or more on Google advertising as a whole, not just on Google Display Network, but on Google search ads, you can upload a list of people who have bought your product or service type before. Or it could be somebody who's been specifically indicated that they were interested in buying stuff to upgrade their home, and they've been to a local trade show. You can buy a list of emails from that people that signed up or bought a ticket to a trade show, and then upload that list to Google Display Network and target people there, even though that's technically outside of the little bit of the terms of what Google allows technically. So do this, I'm not advocating, I'm just saying people could and do this. You can anyway target people that find out a way to target people that are going to need your product or service. It would be the perfect prospect for it by simply going out and acquiring an email list or phone number list of those people, and then uploading it to Google, and then using that to target the right person other than just using the default targeting options that Google has to target the right person. It's another option. You know, you can go to, people go to a company called like Nextmark. You could go to Google, type in Nextmark email lists. You can find email lists for everything. People that have bought in certain products, people that have inquired about certain products, people who have been to trade shows. You can find people that own certain types of vehicles. And then, so if you could find out some way to define what would make that person the perfect person for your product or service, if the Google doesn't have a way to targeting them, you can get an email list as long as you spent over $50K and target them that way. And then the perfect, you know, to target that person at the right place at the right time. You know, of course, you could think a little harder how to do that. What's a website that they would be on indicating that they're going to be buying almost immediately or very, very soon. It might be a certain forum that they're going to, certain articles that they're going to. It may be, you know, respectively, you know, a certain life. They're in the process of moving, like I said. They're actually specifically a person who goes to eats fast food, and specifically, which you know, a certain fast food outlet, and you could. I guess that's not a real good example. I will scratch that out. There's other, you know, ways that you can find through Google Display Network that you can narrow things down, mainly through websites where somebody's it's gonna be not just the right person, but the right time or place to be specifically throughout, you know, when that person could be interested in your product or service is the actual best time to market to them. You combine those two, you will generally have much, much more success going after a person that could buy your product, but it's the right time for them to buy the product, or they're in a place that indicates that that's the type of place, if they're in that place, they're much, much more likely to buy, and already also knowing that they're the right candidate for your product or service. So anyway, so you start with that. Then from there, you also need a good offer. Now, generally speaking, if you sell like granite countertops to people, like I gave with the example before, most people, if they were going to try Google Display Network ads, they would just, or if they were just targeting people that are, you know, similar to the people that come to their site and they have enough traffic to do that, they'll say, we have granite countertops. And then just wait for people to come in. So does everybody else, by the way. What you got to do is you got to differentiate yourself so that when somebody sees your ad, they know why. Okay, so yes, they want granite countertops. You, through the first targeting of figuring out who you need to sell to and what's the right time or place to sell to them, what's going to stand out to them to make our company that sells what we do, assuming you have competitors, that's going to make us different, or even if we don't have competitors, what's going to make them want to do it now? Why? People should always, they do ask yourself, but you want people to say, why am I seeing this ad? Oh yes, I'm interested in that kind of solution. Why now? Well, they're going to give me XYZ if I do it now versus later. Why them? And why at that exact time should they take advantage of your offer? So you need a good offer. A limited time offer that makes your company stand out is the best and gets users both excited and instantly motivated to buy your product or service. So if you were doing the granite countertops, you could say you're offering a free 15-year warranty by, you know, doing it within the next 90 days, which, you know, if they're in the process of moving and they're looking for granite countertops, they're going to be buying in the next 90 days. So it seems kind of more exciting to them. Obviously gets them to, for sure, not want to delay more than the 90 days. For sure, you could put that down to 30 days. Over the next 30 days, we're offering that. So if the next 90 days, they're going to buy, you could get them to not procrastinate. The less they procrastinate, the more likely it is that you're going to get them, because a lot of people just change their mind or forget, or they just go with another vendor. And you could also say right in your ad, other companies do not offer warranties. We normally charge $1,000 for this kind of warranty. We're giving it for free to customers who reach out to us this month of July only. It's our July only special. And you could even go knowing that this is extra credit, knowing that this person's a person who's going to be moving. You can also say for first time home buyers, or more specifically for move-in special or something like that, to indicate, wow, I'm moving. I didn't know other people aren't offering warranty, and I guess I do need that. If I click on this company's ad right now, I'm going to be able to get this. Yeah, okay, I'm going to click on it now. Because what you're doing is you're competing against the people who are trying to get that user's attention as well. The article that they're reading, that person who owns that website is competing for their time, and you're trying to win their attention away from that company. The longer they keep them, the more money they make from them in terms of the advertisements. If you get their attention, you make money from them. And everybody's competing for their attention all the time, online. Your ad has to be good enough to, when they're reading that article, even if it is an article about how to choose the best, granite countertop company, you've got to be able to beat whatever it is that they're actually actively doing at that time. And that's why you have to have an actual offer tied to what you're doing, not just say what you're doing, even though you've already narrowed down to the person that would be perfect for this product or service. You got to get it to where you're motivating them, they're exciting them so that they want to take action now, right now. And hopefully then you can get their attention, to your landing page. And of course, you're a lot of times just going to take having that ad show up for them 20 times before they actually take action, but you get the point. You're going to have, multiple factors more people clicking on your ad if you have an offer attached to it, and it's only good for so long, and you have a reason specifically for it so they understand that it is only going to be good for so long, and that you're not just saying that it's only good for so long. Saying it's July special will make it twice as many people will click on it, because they'll know, well, a lot of people say limited time, but they must really mean it. And you give a reason you build up the freebie that you're doing, what's important about it, why it's that in and of itself is useful, like I said. But that's how you come up with an offer. You got to have an ad with a good offer tied to it to get the user that you already know pretty well, or intimately well, who you're targeting. You're targeting somebody who researched recently for what we do, and they're in a position where we know that they're probably going to be buying soon and have the money, and we want them. And we're going to give them something in order to get their attention, which is within the offer, and you've got a formula that's going to work. Versus what most people are going to do is they're going to target people that are similar to people that came to their website, mainly without enough traffic to really make that work. Or they're going to type in people that are looking for granite countertop stuff. And in a lot of cases, people that are just researching for information, there's a lot of non-buyers in there. They're just looking for information. Even if you target people that go to your competitor sites, those leads aren't as good as some knowing that they're going to move soon, because a lot of people aren't going to buy. They just get price quotes, and then but actually knowing that they're going to move soon, and the fact that they're researching about granite countertops, and having those two where you're able to multiply those two factors together and ultimately get a much higher known value and likelihood of that person that meets both of those different filters is going to ultimately can and would be able to buy. You're going to have a much easier time making your campaigns work. So, but anyway, you get the general idea of this. Find somebody that's the perfect person. How do you target them with the default targeting options? It may be that your product is good for anybody who is a high school graduate. And through the targeting, you can actually do that as well, through the display targeting. There's a lot of options. If not, try to use email addresses if you're spending enough on Google Ads to do it. And then really think about what's the best time or place that they could be, where that exact time that you show them the ad would indicate to them that it's going to make them 5 or 10 times more likely to really want to respond to your ad. And if they see your ad having an offer so juicy and so limited that they really want to now click on your ad. That's the basic framework for getting ads to work on Google Display Network, all three of those things. The average person is going to try to target people that are researching granite countertops if they sell granite countertops, and they're just going to say, we offer granite countertops, and it's not going to work. So you get the basic premise of how this is done, and which we do at our firm as a starting point for all of our campaigns to make them work. What I haven't talked about a lot yet on this channel is, this is your default to get things right, as I mentioned. In terms of the targeting, having an offer for somebody who sees your ad. But you also need to, a lot of times, filter beyond that. That filters things a lot, but it doesn't filter all the way. And so sometimes to get you over the point of profitability, you have to filter a little bit more. Or you could just make it more profitable to filter a little bit more. But you filter down which ad headlines, photos, and websites your ads are actually physically showing up on, as at least with the websites that your ads show up on, has a little bit of different profile of user for every website. So going back to the, you're selling auto parts, you know that somebody's searching and researching to get a auto part installed that you sell on their car, specifically a turbocharger, which is a specific type of auto part. You target people who searched for turbocharger products and information about it in the last 30 days as your way to define a person that seems like they would be in market and right to see your ad and to buy your product. In addition to that, to try to find the right time or place for that ad to show up for people to have that ad show up for them, instead of just relying on they're researching for something related to this product I sell, so therefore we're targeting them with that in and itself. You after people who are also looking at a list of articles that give the user advice as to which turbocharger from which company to pick from, to indicate that they're not just interested in turbochargers, but they're interested in buying one, and there's no point other than to read that article, other than to buy a turbocharger, which makes it the right time in that they were searching for information. Now they're on that web page. They didn't just randomly find this page. They've been doing lots of research on turbochargers. So the fact that they did all that research and they're on this page, and the likelihood, skyrockets that they're going to buy, versus just looking at how to buy a turbocharger and not done the research, or just done the research and not on that web page. That makes it the right, perfect time to buy/market to them. You target all those lists of different websites that have information that they could end up on how to buy, what's the right turbocharger to buy, specifically within that formula and framework that I gave you. And within that, certain websites will work and some won't. And so certain people, or basically people will think, well, in that general formula, you're targeting people that are researching about turbochargers with a custom intent audience, and you're targeting people that are specifically reading an article or on an article about how to choose the right turbocharger. And of course, they have to meet both lists for my ad to be qualified to show up for them. That if it doesn't matter which article that they're reading, they're basically all the same. That's all that matters, as long as they have read one of those articles about how to buy a turbocharger. And the reality is, certain websites will work and generate an ROI that's in excess of the ROI that you need to make money at your company with, and some won't. And you, of course, have to have your tracking set up real well before you start your display advertising to know what websites are working and which aren't. And you need to know your numbers. You need to know if I get $5 in sales to every $1 in ad spent, we're making money after all our expenses. And a lot of times the tracking, every single time the tracking is not going to show you the true number of sales that you're getting. So when it says you're getting a 5-to-1 return on in terms of your sales to revenue ratio on your ad account, you're really getting a 10-to-1 because half of it's not counted. And you'll know that by doing an analysis of your sales before you turn on your display ads and after, and kind of see how your sales go up by looking at your books or just looking at your overall sales through your shopping cart or whatever. Basically, our sales, or the amount of sales we're getting from our campaigns that we're marketing, is generally undercounted by 1/3 to 2/3, just from project to project. Anyway, that was just a side tip. You find certain websites that, of the list that we're targeting, as we had as our second major criteria, they must have been doing research in the last 30 days about turbochargers, and they now have to be on one of these websites that tell them how to select the right turbocharger to buy. So meaning they've done all their homework, they've now looking for final advice on which one to choose, which one's the best, and how to know how to select which one for you or whatever. Of those websites, certain ones will convert well, some will not convert. And you know your number that you need to hit, even after counting for the undercounting that the conversion tracking does. And it only counts so many purchases because people use devices that they start out on one device and they end up on another device, or they're on a browser that doesn't have cookies on it or whatever. You know that you need a 5-to-1 return, even though 5-to-1 really equates to a 10-to-1 return on your ads. Sort of one of those web pages that tell them how to choose the right turbocharger works, and you stick with those. And then respectively, you cut out all the ones that don't work, and now you're left with the ones that work, and you've got a profitable campaign. So when you start out, you'll have to run your ads effectively for 90 days to figure out which of these web pages work and which don't. And along with that, you have to figure out with your ad, you can have your offer, but how you phrase the ad to go with the offer matters a lot in terms of the click-through rate of the ads you're getting. Your ad click-through rate, people know this on Facebook ads, but they don't realize it with Google Display Network for some reason, that the higher the click-through rate, the cheaper the cost per click is going to be. And obviously, the cheaper the cost per click is, the more ROI or more profit you will make from your ads. And if you don't get a high enough click-through rate, you'll not make any money after expenses. So with your ad, you're going to write that ad in a bunch of different ways. And if you're using responsive display ads for this and not banner ads, then you can go ahead and look at all the different headlines that you used, because Google will show you them by looking at the ad assets, which is a button next to the ad that you can click. It'll tell you which headlines work the best and which ones didn't. So you can put in there 10 different ways to say what you were going to say in terms of that ad, to give that offer to that user who's met all your targeting requirements. And a lot of times one ad will get 3 times the click-through rate than another ad. Or sometimes I've seen it where it will get 5 to 10 times the click-through rate another ad will get. So even though you have the right targeting set up, you haven't run your ads long enough to know which of the 10 different ad variants that you're testing works best, and which of the websites that you're targeting works best, your campaigns won't be profitable. But once you have figured out which websites that you need to be on and which ad variant that you need to be using, your profit triples just from having the right website and the right ad orientation, or having the right headline. A lot of times maybe you have to rearrange how the text is on the ad itself, but you get the picture there. And so you'll need to do this as well. I mentioned photos on the display ad, responsive display ad. The photo matters a whole lot. If you're using banner ads, the design of the banner ad matters a whole lot, obviously. So you'll have to test all that stuff, and there's kind of no getting around with it. But if you start out with 10 different versions of ads, you'll easily find out which ad gets the highest click-through rate, which websites converts best, given you're not going to, at least in the example that I gave you, there's not that many websites for them to end up on. You'll be able to find the websites that work and then narrow everything down to that. If you're targeting, thousands or, whatever, millions of websites, as you get conversions, you will find the websites where you get conversions, and then you can just, once you've spent enough money, you can just cancel all the other websites and only do the websites in which you got conversions on. conversions at a cost per conversion that's profitable, of course. But anyway, as far as why certain websites work versus other websites that don't work, when the targeting requirements show that this is the right person and at the right perfect time or place that they're at, that would indicate it was essentially the right time to market to them, is because each website has a little bit different profile of person on the website, has a little bit different demographics, age demographics, gender demographics, a different income profile, a different, a person that is more analytical, not less analytical. It's a person who maybe, pisses a lot more of their money away on stuff in your niche or not. So each website has a little bit different collection of user base on it, generally speaking. Even if that website isn't having a lot of recurring visitors, but the type of person that would just, read the page, even if it's just one page, will be a little bit different, that appeals to that page or that content versus another page. And so that's why a lot of times you can't get your campaign to work until you've ran your campaigns for a while and then figured out the web pages or the websites that actually effectively work. If you want, you can actually, by the way, target an individual web page by having your targeting set up to target a domain and then having a filter that certain keywords need to be on a certain domain, and which can effectively let you narrow it down to just one page if you wanted to do that. And you may have to have a bunch of ad groups in order to have this campaign set up so you're at the right place and you're at the right time and the right time, it's the right person at the right time/place. In order to do that, you need to have lots of different ad groups given the right place as an individual page within a website. I won't get into that. I've talked about that before, but anyway, so there's a lot of sophistication that needs to go into this and planning in order to get things right before you get started. But whereas the average person is going to rush through it and not make it work, if you actually actively think through each one of these things I'm giving to you, your likelihood of making it work is very high. Actually, it's not that hard to make money if you just know these key things going into it. The trouble is nobody thinks about all this stuff. They just go ahead and they'll type in a few keywords, they'll run the ads, and then that's it. And sometimes they get lucky, but most of the time we're talking 95+ % of people that try Google Display Network ads aren't going to get it to work because they don't think about these kind of things and they go too broad. Their money's gone in 2 seconds, and they're sitting there and they're saying, "What the hell happened? Oh, Google Display Network doesn't work." And the reality is they're not a professional ad person and they have no idea about this stuff that it takes to make it work. So it's not like a TV ad where you find to pick the right TV channel or you get them all and you kind of that's it. This has insane levels of control with it, which makes it able to work for no matter how obscure or micro niche your product is. It will basically always work as long as you can figure out what are the targeting, the cadence to the targeting and the offer that you need. And of course, doing some fine tuning of which websites that you don't want your ad to show up on and which ad language on the ad is going and visual or photography on the ad that you don't want and which one you need to capture the user's attention in that set market that you're targeting or targeting options within the targeting options that you're targeting. You will figure out which ad, how to have the ad written, what websites it needs to show up on, and then there's other refinement that you usually have to do in a lot of markets, a lot of times to get the rest of the way with your profitability. So there's a lot of, if you're only got a third of the results that you want, you can get the other 2/3 that you need to get profitable or be at the profitable point where you're actually making money after all your ad expense and your product costs and all that by doing this last step, which is you can do these bid adjustments on your different dimensions of the display campaign. Namely, you can adjust how much you're willing to pay, more or less, based upon what day of the week it is that the ad should show up, or the time of the day specifically. Is it morning, Is it afternoon? Is it evening? The device the user's on, are they on mobile versus desktop or tablet? The age of the user, of course, and a lot of this you can just narrow down right from the get-go. You know certain demographics, age, and genders of people that don't buy, you just narrow those out right away. But even within that, you know males buy, turbochargers, but 35 to 65 buy, and you run it, and then you figure out 45 and above is the sweet spot. 35 plus isn't, and you just weed that out. You can adjust how much you're willing to pay more or less on each one of these levels. So 35 might be worth it, but it's only converting at half the rate 45 plus is. So what you do is you do this, what is called a bid adjustment, using a bid adjustment formula. You can Google bid adjustment formula, and based upon how well, let's say the 35 to 45 age bracket converts, you'll do a plus bid adjustment or a negative bid adjustment, giving Google and telling Google you're willing to pay less or more than you were paying for 35 plus based upon how well it's converting and what the cost per conversion is. If you're already profitable on 35 plus, maybe you raise the bid a little bit so you get shown more times. The higher you bid, the more likelihood your ad will show up for the people in your targeted list, given that each time an ad could show up for that person, you're in competition with other people who want to market to that exact person at that exact time as well. So whoever basically pays the most wins. And as if you pay more, you'll get more exposure through that target audience that you've defined and realized that that's where your golden set of people to market to is. And you go after them. And you'll basically also you'll take budget away from different age demographics, times of the day, days of the week where it's less profitable, and then reallocate it to parts of your account or campaign that is above average profitability, so you can walk up the profitability of what you're doing one step at a time. And of course, the more data you get, the more accurately you can do this, but this can take you the rest of the way. If narrowing down and finding that right ad language to use that worked, and which exact website placement to use. And the website placements, you can find under the placements all the websites that your ad showed up on, which converted. You can either just run the ones that converted, or you can do a bid adjustment on the placements and bid more for websites that did convert and ones that didn't, or only convert some of the times or not very often, just do a little less, but don't shut it off. The good thing about bid adjustments is it'll let you squeeze out every bit of value from each layer of this, each website, each time of the day, each device, that you can get as many conversions at the cost per conversion that you need to be profitable, but not pay more to where you go unprofitable for that specific subsegment itself. The average person that's doing this is just going to say, oh, mobile doesn't work, I'm shutting it all off. And reality is there's a value to mobile traffic. You would take 10 million visits of mobile traffic to your website for free if you could get it, wouldn't you? Well, why the hell would you put 0% where you would want 0% mobile traffic? You figure out what mobile's worth, you adjust the bid on mobile to a point which gets you customers profitably, and then you have an additional stream of traffic that can bring you customers profitably kind of from then on, versus 0 for mobile. And you do that on each one of these individual levels. The thing is, though, you can adjust your bid on, if people do this, they may know they can adjust your bidding on day of the week, time of the day, device the user's on, age, gender, parental status, whether they got kids or not. But you can also do it on basically an unlimited amount of other levels, whether that person's a high school graduate. Is this person, do they love pets? Do they frequent coffee shops? On and on and on and on and on. So to narrow down your stuff far enough, you do need to figure out what's the right person and traits that indicate it's the right person, and narrow that person down even more, generally speaking, by what's the right time/place that we know that person's already in, that would make that person who is right for our product really, really, really likely to buy your product or service. to then hit them with an amazing offer that's only good for a little bit of time, which gets them to want to, we're going to compete well for that user's time at the time that they see the ad. And then we're going to narrow them down from that audience that we start out with enough to where we get profitability or hit profitability. And so what these observations do is it allows it's actually called observations. You can add 100 different observations of different things that would segment out your targeted list of people that you're targeted up here to figure out what you should be paying if somebody has one trait over another trait. Just like you can with day of the week, you can bid 20% more on Fridays because Fridays converts a little bit better traditionally, and then like on Saturdays you're bidding 30% less than what you normally pay for every other day of the week because it converts a little bit less frequently at less a rate. You can do that on all these other levels. Frequent traveler, likes to reads newspapers. All these different things that are what are actually just targeting options in the account. You'll have certain targeting options you pick out for the primary targeting, but with all these sub options, you can set up as observations. It's not, an observation isn't targeting, it's just like it sounds, it's an observation. You're observing what it is if that person is on that list of people that Google has deemed as pet lovers. If they have looked at and were researching about turbochargers recently, and they're on a website on how to buy a turbocharger, therefore we want to get our ad with our offer on, in front of that person at that exact time. If they're a pet lover, we could see, or if they're a pet lover as well, we could see if that person converts above average or below average. And then just sit back and just let the data tell us what to do. It really, all this stuff it's not a matter of if it will work, it's just using your brain and also waiting enough time, which of course we can't wait forever, but waiting a little bit of time where if we don't have the numbers we want yet to be profitable, we just wait a little bit more time to have Google tell us exactly what waste of what we're doing is the waste and what to cut out so we do hit our numbers. And so pet lovers, for some reason, if they're a pet lover, our stuff converts at half the rate in our targeted audience. Well, let's just spend 50% less if they're a pet lover. Okay? And by default, if you don't have a bid adjustment on your observation, then you don't have to specifically do anything with that. Respectively, and that specifically to stand corrected on this observation thing, you will use the observations to find out which ones that you don't want targeted. So within your list here, what you're going to do is you're going to say, going back to our previous example about the turbocharger, so you can actually do a bid adjustment on age, gender, time of the week, so on and so on and so on. As it gets to these observations itself, you are going to either target something or you're not going to target something. So you'll know what to target. If we set up 100 observations of pet lovers, high school graduates, whatever, we can find out these other, so-called lists of people that Google has predefined, if they convert, at half or less frequently as other people that normally go through our campaign here. If they do, we can add it as a negative targeting option. And so if we find out pet lovers, if for some reason they convert at half the rate, they can be having to have done research on turbochargers in the recent past, in the recent 30 days, be on a page about how to select the right turbocharger for purchase. And if they're a pet lover, they're not included. And then you find the other subtraits there that we can add as a negative targeting option to our original targeting that we were doing up here. And once you have enough of them targeted, then we've got enough waste targeted or filtered out of our original list to where the campaign can be profitable. Now we're getting more and more refined. Our audience that we're targeting gets more and more and more and more and more refined. We only try to refine down to as far as we need to go to be profitable, but when we're not profitable yet, then we can simply get to profitability just by narrowing down that audience that we were targeting a little bit further. And so whereas everybody generally the 95% that doesn't make Google Display Network work, you're going to, because they start too broad, you're going to start way, way refined. And then if you still don't quite have what you want, you'll go a little bit more refined by adding these negative targeting observations, or these observations that you see if the certain, lists of people, so to say, that if they're on one of these lists, they don't convert at anywhere near what other people convert at. We can add them as negative targeting options, and then just build up the negative targeting options until your campaign hits profitability. So you may have to add 30 of those. And generally speaking, anything, if you're converting at 20% of the people who click turn into a sale, for your observations, if they're converting at less than 10%, I'm going to add it as a negative targeting option as a way to clean up, assuming that my campaigns are not profitable already. But even if I'm not satisfied with the level of profit, I can keep doing this. Generally speaking, if I'm already making a good return, we're kind of just like, oh, whatever. It's making money, a decent return, just forget it. But the more you keep working at this, adding a bunch of observations, I'd add like 100 observations, figure out in there, the 5 or 10 that clearly work less than half of what the normal person on your list does. You add those as negative targeting options. Your ROI will go up some more. If you find out from those 100 you don't have your ROI that you want yet, you add another 100. Or you could just, in general, get crazy with it. You could add 1,000 of observations right away. And within that, you're going to find a bunch of audiences that you can add as a negative targeting option, and make it more likely through the first round of having to make your negative targeting options, you find that enough of these negative targeting options to have a big jump on your results once you add the observations that work less than half of what your normal person does coming through your campaign. So anyway, so with that said, that's the main key things on how to get Google Display Network campaigns to work. There's more to it. I've got other videos on this channel that talk about Google Display Network. But these are the main things you need to know. You need to know how to find the right person and at the right place or time to get that perfect person that can buy and is in his position to where they want to buy, and they want to buy now or as close to that as possible. And you get them the right offer that if they just seen it, that already wants it, and when you get them to notice it, that they'll bite. And then you do your refining on your targeting, you test your ad, you narrow down your websites that people are seeing your stuff on. And then do bid adjustments on your age, gender, time, day of the week, time of the day, device users on parental status, and then you add your observations, and you start adding negative targeting options to your campaign until your ROI has met the level of ROI that you need. You've added enough of them. You added enough negative targeting options to where you're over that point of profitability. And so when I said that this is a process that you can follow, it surely really is. It may not get results right away, but it's respectively will get results. It's just a matter of how many, observations you have to add, and then just figuring out the right targeting options. Specifically up front, and it'll get results way quicker than a similar to audience will, because that's just the way that it is. The computer is going to figure out how to get a customer, but it's going to have to try a whole bunch of stuff. If you have a lot of traffic coming to the site, that maybe not be the case. Like if you had 100,000 people coming to your site every month, maybe the algorithm could figure out quicker than you, but generally speaking, most people watching this obviously don't have that option. So you go with this option here and this formula that I gave you here, respectively, or you try, like I said, the similar to audience, because lookalike audiences work on Facebook. Why don't I try similar to audiences on Google? You try it doesn't really work good enough for you after 90 days. Go ahead and give this a shot. You give this a shot, you see your ROI after 90 days, and then you'll know, okay, I want to keep going with the similar to, or I'll just keep going with the campaign I set up with targeting options manually and then refine that, and I'm going to get to profitability quicker. And so the whole kind of theme, though, out of all this, like I said, in either case, you're not going to probably get profitability instantly. A lot of times if you do your targeting right, you can get profitability within 30 days. Now, if you don't get that, just keep in mind that even if you're 20% of the way that you need to go, you'll be able to get the rest of the way just with a few revisions, namely on the stuff I said on this side with the ad testing and the observations and the bid adjustments. So you should already be happy. If you're like 3% of the way to your ROI target, that's a different idea or a different story, and you might want to go back and try your targeting again. But you can, generally speaking, also make a lot of improvements quick with just the stuff I said over here, to where after 30 days you're, only 10% to your goal. You can a lot of times get to your goal in another 60, 90 days just with the other stuff I said to refine what you're doing. Depends on what you're spending, of course. More traffic, the quicker you get data and all that stuff. But, what I'm trying to say is don't give up on it right away. If you're even halfway close to what you wanted for results, put the time in, get the rest of the data you need. And then, because once it's working, it'll generally work for years. Nobody's going to be able to see your ads that you're running. Nobody, therefore, can copy it. Respectively, nobody in your niche will probably ever copy it. And, of course, it'll probably just keep working for years and years and years afterwards. So whatever you spend in the first 90 days or even 180 days to get this working, you're going to make it back every month once this thing is really going after that. Start out with a small budget, and then you can scale your budget up. You don't have to generally have tens of thousands of dollars to do this. You have a few $1,000s to get enough data to tell you how to run your campaign, and then it'll work. But it does vary based upon what you're selling. If it's in demand, it's not very much in demand. You have obviously something that's really hot versus something that's, 50 people are selling it and there's nothing unique about it. That all varies how fast you're going to get up to profitability as well. Maybe you offer better pricing, but anyway, you get the idea. It still has to do with what you sell, not heavily, just as much as everything else, determine how quickly you're going to get things to work. But if you sell something in demand, it will work. It's just a matter of when with this methodology I gave you. Anyway, I'll wrap it up with that. I'd appreciate it if you give this video a thumbs up. If you liked it, it'll help get the video out there to other people who want to try to get Google Display Network working for them, and really help them out, and it would help us out as well. I also have a ton of other video content coming where I actually share the results on our clients' campaigns, of course anonymously, and show you physically how to set up campaigns the way that we're setting up campaigns here for our clients on Google and Facebook. And you can pick up a lot of good knowledge by watching what we're doing here, what's work, what's not work, because that's what we're sharing with you on this channel. I also have a blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog with step-by-step instructions on how to build PPC campaigns the way that we build them here for our clients, and which we got to actually guarantee people's results on. So if you want to see how things are done on a more step-by-step basis, maybe you go ahead and check that content out. Maybe we'll be able to help you out get to make more money with your ads quicker by supplementing your knowledge with what we have there for you as well. This is all content that I write. If you have any questions about anything I covered, anything else about Google Display Network campaigns, leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel, usually within a day or two time. And so with that said, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.